Welcome to Forward Focused. In each episode, we're helping you take another step toward becoming a more effective, well-rounded leader. I'm your host, Jon Reusch, and today we actually have a special treat for you. I was able to be a guest on the Inside Real Estate podcast, hosted by Paul, Sal, and Brad, great guys. And the conversation that we had was around the real estate industry, what's happening right now with rates, what's happening right now. Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? How does inflation and the political and some of the socioeconomic factors impact real estate? There's some lessons through this conversation around remaining diligent, reinventing your business models, and making sure you're focused on always staying relevant. So without further ado, here we go.
Paul Apostolakis, Sal Cusumano, Brad Weissgerber. We are Inside Real Estate. For those of you that have joined us, thank you. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You can go to IREpodcast.com. You can go to Facebook /IRE Podcast. You can go to anywhere that your podcast is available. We should be there. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy the show. Today, we've got a really cool guest. We've got Mr. Jon Reusch. He's from Keller Williams in Lakeside. He's the operating principal there. We're going to be talking about the delinquency rate, what that's doing, the CPI data that just came out today, which is the rate of inflation, which is up. And then 183 metros out of 163 rose by double digits. So we're having a lot of gains in the housing market that we talk about week after week. But, you know, it's irrelevant, and more reports keep coming out to kind of say that fact. So why don't we bring on Jon to give us a little background on his story, and then we'll talk about these topics. Jon, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It's good seeing you.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. Jon, obviously you're the principal at KW Lakeside. Why don't we kind of get into you first to just start off, just kind of how you got into real estate, because we haven't had you on the show before.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So I'll make it brief, but it's a pretty cool story, and I think it's about pursuing passions, right, and hitting goals. So, I grew up in Macomb, Michigan, and I went away to Central Michigan University, played sports, was involved, all those different things, right? Wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. And got my degree in sociology, psychology, minor in leadership development. Then I went on and got my master's degree in educational leadership and business management. Nice. And by 22, I was, master degreed up. I had taught collegiate classes, studied abroad, worked in Spain, Germany, France. And one cool experience from that, I actually studied the educational system in Spain, and I compared it to the United States. And I got academically published a few times with that, and nice. Thought I was really on this like dean, president of a university kind of track. And I was in the higher ed industry for about 5 years total at Central Michigan, then transitioned to Oakland U. Loved my time at Oakland U. I was an academic advisor, career consultant. I taught courses, but I felt consistently that I was just hitting a ceiling, right? Not only financially, but just in like being challenged and growing. And I'm like, I'm not married, don't have kids. Now's the time to maybe jump. So I started looking at corporate training positions, career development opportunities. I looked at financial, I looked at insurance, I looked at everything, right? And then I found real estate, and specifically Keller Williams culture, one of collaboration, one of giving, one of sharing, one of multiple revenue stream opportunities, and it excited me. And so in 2015 into 16, I became the team leader at Keller Williams Lakeside. And I took the company with our amazing team, by the way. This is not just me, right? It was captaining a ship, but the team grew the company from 220 agents to 390. Wow. Market share from about 4.5%. We were always in the top quartile, and we doubled it to over 10.5%. Wow. And last year we closed over 3,000 units. We take 2,000 listings a year. We have a really good pulse. Our agents have a great pulse on what this industry is doing, where we're going to, right? There's one thing about servicing where we're at today, but I always say it's not about where we're at just today. It's about where the market's heading. So, we have nearly 400 agents now, and we had a record April, and May is already on fire, just like everybody else in the experiences. So that's a little bit about me and my background. I'm married 3 years now. I love my wife. She's awesome. And I love hanging out with people like you.
That's awesome, man. So, I mean, obviously,
That's wild.
That is a wild transition from where you thought you were going to be. And it's always like that. It's always like, I'm going to do this. And then you end up doing real estate somehow and you get sucked into it. But, and once you're in it, it's just such a cool business. A lot of people end up staying, right? So, my question is, how hard is it to manage that many people? You know what I mean? Like, how do you get all those people kind of on the same page?
Yeah. So one of the things that makes Keller Williams Lakeside unique, and I do want to hit on that, it's a great question. I oversee a team of about 25 employees, and each of those employees has specific divisions that they specialize in. So for example, if you look at most brokerage models, you have a broker, maybe a broker assistant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're also the owner. They're also the, person cutting checks or overseeing the accounting. Well, at Lakeside, I have 3 brokers. Right. And then fun fact, we have over 75 associate brokers that work out of Lakeside too. So the first thing I would say, any leadership rule on that, span of control. I have my 5 direct reports and then they have their 5 direct. And that's how it kind of just trickles down, if you will.
Yeah.
We have a training calendar that has about 45 classes per month. They're delivered asynchronously. So we have them virtual and in person. And so we have a library of resources and videos and FAQs that our agents can go back to and look at our policy or our procedure or training on that. But we have a great team. I don't have one person cutting checks. I have 3 people cutting checks.
Right.
We have direct deposit options. We have, it's really about where's the agent's business? What do we need to do to make your life easier so you can be in the streets, getting more listings and closing on your buyers. So it's not easy, but it is simple if you have the right team in place and you're incentivizing them and motivating them to, own their role and deliver those results. Does that make sense?
Totally. And so if you had to pick one part of the secret sauce that you bring to the table to that whole mix, what would you say that is?
Outside of dashingly good looks.
Other than how beautiful of a man you are.
No. It's a great question. You know what I think it is? I think it's truly listening to what your people want and desire,
mm-hmm.
and being straight up and saying, I can deliver that or I cannot.
Right.
And here's how. I cast a vision relentlessly. I have a vision for 20% market share by 2025 with 500 agents. Right. 5,000 closings, 3,000 listings. Like, I drill these numbers doan ad nauseum. And the reason, because it's the amount of families we'll serve and it's about the impact that we'll have in the metro area. Right. But I think it starts with listening, not just waiting for the other person to stop talking or what their problem is and saying, well, this is what you got to go do. It's asking them questions like, okay, so that's the reality. Where are we in relation to the goal we were trying to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
And then based on that gap, what do we got to do differently? And then I close with, as your leader, how can I help?
Yeah. That's pure leadership right there. I mean, that's how it should go.
When you put it like that, it sounds like your job is super easy.
Yeah, dude, you do.
You just sit back, you listen, you ask a question, you listen, and then you ask, how can I help? And then you're done and you walk away.
The world is perfect after that.
Well, transparently, it's like some days I'm Dave Ramsey, some days I'm Joel Osteen, some days I'm Dr. Phil. It just depends what day it is, right?
I never want to be Dr. Phil.
No, neither do I. Dr.
I'll draw the line at Oprah.
We'll go to Oprah. Yeah.
Dr. Phil is banned in my house. If I hear that voice, I throw something at my TV.
So something that's obviously in our market, Keller Williams has been around for some time. They kind of champion the team kind of approach. They have great resources. They're not the only option anymore. A lot of people are kind of moving around, and in our industry, it happens a lot. People jump ship from ship to ship. They come back, they leave. It's kind of a weird industry like that because everybody's kind of grass is always greener type of thing mentality in our industry. How is Keller Williams adapting to the competition in the marketplace for real estate agents to go work other places now? Where Keller Williams really was the champion for a long time.
Yeah, let's dive into that for just a minute. I don't want to gloss over that, and I also don't want to be misrepresented in what I'm about to say. Not from you guys, just in general, right?
Yeah.
So a couple things. Let's look back over the last 35 years. Just reflect for a moment, right?
Mm.
Think about several of your large franchises. I won't even name them, but just think of the big franchises that have been number one previously, or were known as the place to go.
Like a Blockbuster.
That idea, right? And here's my question. What has your Century 21s, your Remaxes, your Coldwell Bankers, your Berkshire Hathaways, your Sotheby's, great brokerages, great brokers, great agents, by the way.
Of course.
Fundamentally, what have they developed or introduced to the real estate industry that's transformed it for the agent? Did they introduce teams? Did they introduce buyer compensation? Did they introduce a capped program where the agent could make 100%? Did they introduce multiple revenue streams? Right. Again, not bad, but there's a reason this book is still relevant, okay?
Yeah.
So now today, what I'm hearing consistently is this. We're the new Keller Williams.
Yeah, you hear that. Yeah.
Transparently, you're not. And here's why. It's very simple. You don't own the technology that you're claiming you own. Who thought Showing Time would be purchased for $500 million?
It's the craziest thing in the world because it is not a complicated program.
$500 million.
Yeah.
So if you aren't on a platform that your brokerage owns, so whether it's KV Core, Brivity, Boomtown, Sync, I don't care what it is, name it, it can be bought.
Yeah.
And I think we are truly the game is being lost so slowly that agents think they're winning.
That's an interesting comment. It's being lost so slowly that they think they're winning. Okay. Walk me through that.
So right now it's all about data. It is. And it's about the consumer experience. And it's about looking for patterns and having the money and the technology to help the agent see the data. I'm not saying it's replacing the agent at all. But what I'm concerned about deeply is that this rising market for 11 straight years has falsified what a brokerage and a platform can truly offer to its agents and its teams to thrive.
That's an interesting comment. That's a really interesting comment because what I want to comment about that is that in an easy market where you can fall and slip and get a deal, you know, these cracks in a lot of these games don't show up as much because you can get so much business. I think to your point, as things get more difficult, these tools become so much more important, right? And it will get difficult. It always will. There will be moments of time where it gets difficult. What is your broker going to do to help you in that instance? Is I think what you're saying.
What I encourage, I am saying that, and here's how I'll kind of finish that piece of it, I guess. Keller Williams is reinventing itself. It is amazing to see what it's doing at an international level. And that's not hyperbole. Trust me, I sit down. I'm 30 years old, okay? I've looked at every model many times.
Yeah.
Before I decided to go all in with Keller Williams because of where I was seeing them head with technology, I looked at EXP. I looked at Fathom Realty. I looked at Compass. Come on. Every smart business owner would look at those things.
Yeah, you got to know.
The questions to fundamentally ask are, is the model sustainable? Can I still benefit from some of the rewards that this brokerage model is offering without hanging my license there, which you can with a lot of our competitors? And then lastly, and the biggest, do they own the technology and is it helping? I'll give you one example. End of this year, our forms, as they fill out through DocuSign and through Command, will actually give our agent recommendations on what the list to close price will be based on artificial intelligence and patterns that we're seeing in the market.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
Show me KV Core. Can KV Core do that?
I don't think so.
It can't.
I don't know what KV Core is.
KV Core is like a CRM.
It's a great CRM.
Yeah, it's a CRM. No, it's interesting because being at the forefront of technology is something that EXP does tout as a competitor of yours. I think that's probably right now where a lot of people have gone or going. So you're saying that potentially that they don't actually own that stuff, that it can be bought, that, you know, Keller Williams is really pushing the technology envelope more than anybody else.
Listen, I wish EXP all the success, right? I truly do. And I have a lot of great colleagues and friends that work there. And so I want to be very clear on this next point. This is not me saying I don't wish them success. I want them to succeed. Of course. The fact of the matter, though, is I struggle with claims like we're agent owned and we're giving agent opportunity when 2% of all your agents received icon status, right? And additional to that, which is 700 agents out of 50,000.
Right.
Okay? But then secondly, You don't actually get that. There's stock options. It's a rolling 3 years. So every year I have to, if I earn that, I have to wait another 3 years for that next set of shares. And they've changed their program. Every time they change it, they say this is a sustainability program. To me, that's corporate speak for what we've been doing isn't sustainable and we're losing too much money. Now, I might be wrong, and if I can be educated, I'd love to be. And I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, but I'm just being real. Like, think about what the next decade will look like. The other thing I hear is that brick and mortar is going away forever, and Keller Williams has too much rent and all these different things. The truth of the matter is that for years, Keller Williams has always had more agents per square foot than any brokerage. Right. The most profitable company on the planet is Apple. Do they have brick and mortar?
Yep.
Yes. But they're profitable per square foot, which is what Keller Williams has done. So I think there's law of abundance. I think there's more business than ever to go around if it's done in the right way. But I think I'm just going to keep my head down, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing at Keller Williams to lead the industry. And if I can help any other agent achieve or get to their goals, I'm here. I'm here to help, and I'm here to support. Does that make sense? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. No,
it's super fair. I don't think Keller Williams is going to go anywhere. I mean, they've been around forever, and every time we talk to someone about Keller Williams or someone that's worked there or does work there, there's only great things to be said generally. And one of the things that always comes up is how they're innovative and they're pushing the envelope on technology and training. I don't think Keller Williams is going to go anywhere. If anything, they're going to adapt. If things do start taking a trend a different way, Keller Williams is not a stupid company. They're going to adapt. They're going to change. They're going to make what they need to happen.
Yeah. Keller Williams International sold over $1 billion in real estate per day last 12 months.
Jesus.
Okay. Now, in perspective, our nearest competitor, which is not anybody we've talked about on this call today so far,
right?
Because that group is so new that they're okay.
Yeah.
They sold just over 200 billion
total.
So I want to give you that perspective. Over 380 billion sold last 12 months. The next person is at 200 plus.
Yeah. Sal, that reminds me a lot of like UWM, like United Wholesale Mortgage, who we use a lot. And the reason we use them is because they're forward thinking in technology. They are by far and away the best, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the industry. And we use them for that reason. Sal, what do you think about that? Like that comparison?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair. I think that, when you do volume like that, and have that many agents and that many transactions and a global reach, that not only can you kind of see the trends coming, I mean, you can kind of set them, right? Like you have that foresight, right? To kind of make and plan for what's coming, which, no one really knows exactly, but I think like UWM, for example, right? Like, they have special relationships with Fannie and Freddie and sometimes have variances and things like that. And it just makes, to John's point, the overall end experience for the consumer or the buyer or the seller or whatever, it's just that much better, right? I mean, at the end of the day, people work with people, right? Like, I don't know necessarily that, like, if I worked at Keller Williams or I worked at Coldwell Banker, like, I don't know if that's the make or break, but I want the tools, I want the technology, I want the ability to put myself in the best position, right? And if that made a difference and won me the sale, then that's what matters, right? And that's kind of like on our end. Yeah, I could use, I might even make more money, quote unquote, working with another wholesale lender, right? On the same specific transaction, but that's not really sustainable. Right.
What's the process? Is it any good?
Yeah. You need the tools, the technology, the process to win and win and win again, because when you win, everyone talks about it,
Yeah. And I think to your point, Sal, on that, what I would be looking at, right, just talking about winning long term, is does the model I'm in or working with, does it support insurance? Does it support mortgage, title? Does it, with the transaction itself with the consumer, like if you think of bundling of services that are there, that funnel, that experience starts at the moment the wife turns to the husband after the holidays and goes, this condo's not working out anymore. We're hosting. We need to start looking. And so do you have an app, or do you have a pattern builder, artificial intelligence, that says, hey, they have a propensity to start looking right now. They've been in their condo 4 years, and based on data, their family's probably growing. Call them.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Speaking of data, we should get into some of these topics that I wanted to kind of hit on. Right now, the CPI data came out today, and I said this last week, but I'm worried about inflation. And CPI data is at 4.2%. It's the fastest pace it's grown in 10 years since September of 2008. And it doesn't count like household goods that are, like milk and that kind of stuff. The CPI data is the CPI number is kind of off a little bit from that standpoint, but it did beat expectations of the street, which I think was like 3.8 or whatever, maybe 3.2. So basically we're having inflation, and inflation is a real thing, John, and it's happening. How is inflation, do you think, affecting the housing market?
Yeah, I mean, come on. The rates that our housing has appreciated are not sustainable, right? And you couple that with a shortage of inventory, and then mortgage rates at subsidized historical lows, right?
Subsidized,
You have this perfect storm of the only reason that buyers or sellers are still doing what they're doing is because it's, for both of them at this moment, it's a great time to transact. How it's going to impact is you're going to see, we got to watch forbearance, and we got to watch when those restrictions or when those graces will be pulled. And I think the second thing is you're going to see a cooling and an easing down, right? I don't think you'll see a rock bottom drop, right? But come on, 60,000 appraisal guarantees over asking.
Yeah,
we all know that that's not sustainable. There's not a realtor I talk to that isn't. So if I were a realtor, I'd be looking at my database. I'd be looking at anybody that sold or bought in the last 3 to 5 years, and I would be talking to them about today's market and what actions they need to be taking today to protect their family over the next 5 to 7 years. And one of them, of course, is refinancing if they haven't. I cannot believe the number of people I talk to that still haven't.
Correct.
And then number two, I'd be talking specifically with buyers about what their 5-year plan is if they buy. Mm-hmm. Are you okay with being in this market for the next 7-8 years? Because you may not, if we do have a correction in the next 24 to 36 or sooner, and inflation's eating away at some of your other costs, right? Your other expenses that you're doing,
right?
Then you may not be able to sell and make equity that you desire for 5 to 7 years. Are you okay with that decision? And some buyers are. They're like, yeah, I just want to start building equity. I'm going to be there the next 10 years anyways.
Right.
I think it's that conversation.
I think having the right conversation. But I guess
most buyers are going to say, I feel like most buyers are going to say yeah to that question. I don't think anyone, or very few people, I feel like, buy a house and be like, yeah, I'm going to go through all this, and I'm only going to stay here for a year or two, and then I'm going to sell it. Most people don't have that thought process. Most people are buying a house and I'm going to be here at least 5 to 10 years.
Right.
But then the data says otherwise. They generally sell before then, but that's not the thought process.
When you do a loan for a client, right, or sell a house, and then 2 years later, life hits them, right?
Right.
Baby, multiple babies, whatever. Things just happen. I think that it's hard, especially in, I mean, all of us, relatively, except for Paul, no offense, are like 30, right? So, like, people buying their first home. But think of Paul, in your life, even from 30 to 40, right? Or in our lives from 20 to 30, how much everything has changed, right? Careers, this, that, the ability to,
everything changes. Things change. I'm getting a divorce. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but I mean, things like that happen, and I don't think that it, especially right now with the thought of values, let's just say staying. Let's say they don't even drop, but they stay put. You put 3% down on a house, you're welded in that thing for quite some time, unless you get a gift or something to pay it down. Because I mean, traditionally, like, I put 3% down on when I bought my house, and I probably got like 50, 60, 70 grand of equity now. But I only paid down. I realized this the other day. It's so bad, right? Because I do all these mortgages for people, but I paid 10 grand down on my mortgage in 3 years. I mean, part of that
payment's not going to give you the equity you need to get out of the house over that time.
Dude, I mean, part of it, and that's to John's point. Like, why haven't you refied? I paid, $7,500 down over 2.5 years or something like that, and over the past 6 months, I paid down like substantially more just due to the low rate. You know, when I bought my house, unfortunately, I went self-employed, so I couldn't refi. So I was at a 5.5 for like 2 years.
That was
terrible.
At 4.75. Yeah, it was terrible.
But the ability to gain equity now, and I think that's what is kind of insulating some of like if rates were 6-7% right now and values were this high, it'd be alarming because you'd have to you'd have to pay so much extra to build equity in your home. But now is an opportunity, and I don't, people, when you talk to them, they're like, oh man, I'm paying 10, 15 grand extra for this house. But it's like, dude, with this interest rate and the way that your money will apply towards that loan, you're going to build more long-term if you have that plan of 7 to 10 years or whatever, right? But
whatever that number is.
Yeah, the price of money almost trumps the inflation in terms of the housing market, in my opinion.
If up until a point, at some point, your dollar just
at some point, I think so. Hopefully, before that goes past point, that, right? I think that's when you see the correction. I think that's when you probably see some more inventory hit the market.
John, how do we see a correction when we have such a supply demand issue that isn't going to go away?
Great question. Number one, when mortgage rates are stopped, when you stop supporting mortgage rates with subsidies, right? Whether that's the unemployment checks that are still going out, when those stop or when those programs end or change, everything else will start to ripple. Okay. Number two, you're going to have an increased amount of inventory come on the market. A lot of people predict there's roughly 5 months of forbearance or homes that are in forbearance programs that have not hit the market. So that's around the country, of course. So here's the point is as rates start to come back up, whenever that is, okay, whenever that is a consistent thing and get above 4.5%, somewhere in that range, clearly buyers are going to be priced out. That's going to happen. Then number two, you're going to, whenever these properties potentially come on the market, that's going to help, right? But this demand isn't going to stop. No. Listen, before COVID, before the rates, we had 5 million homes not built in the last decade because of the recession, right? Correct. 5 million homes that were not built. There's a 5 million home gap. So we just last year hit 1 million homes built again, right? And now look at lumber costs. So we're back into another cycle of builders going.
That's what I'm saying, John. John, that's what I'm saying though. Like, how do we? I get that when things, but like, just for instance, right? The delinquency rate is down to 6.3% from 8.22 at the peak, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That number's skewed though, also because of the forbearance that John mentioned, right? So, how many of the people in forbearance would have been delinquent, right? Granted, there's probably a decent number of people in forbearance that don't really need the forbearance, that are just taking advantage of it.
Brad, they're predicting that 40 to 50% of the numbers in forbearance are real.
Yeah.
Right. I could see that 100%, but that still leaves a 50 to 60% that are taking advantage of.
I mean, how many people are making their student loan payments right now?
Yeah,
right. I'm not making my student loan payments. I haven't for a year because
I thought I was, but they automatically deferred them, and
automatically.
I'm like, how?
Salden had no idea he was not paying.
I was like, God, but I mean, I do think though that people, I mean, not paying my student loan isn't going to kill me, right? Like, you need a place to live, and I think that people covet that and take with a serious note, like, man, even though it's in forbearance or whatever, or I can take advantage of forbearance, what does that implicate down the road, right? Are they going to potentially take my home? And I think that people really seriously think about that. I think at the beginning, I've seen this with a lot of clients, especially even really well qualified ones with great credit and never lost their jobs, but they were like, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm going to do it, and that complicated things for a refinance or something. But it's a real thing. I think that people think about not paying my mortgage. It just doesn't sit well with people. So to John's point, I bet the numbers previously, a few months ago, I was probably thinking like, man, everyone's taking advantage of it. But I think at this point, if you're in it, you probably are in it for a reason.
Yeah. John, are you seeing investors selling their portfolio or adding to it?
Adding.
Well,
I see both, right? You always see both, but predominantly I'm still seeing adding, and here's why. To Sal's point earlier, it's the money being so cheap right now. Why would I not? I'm also seeing investors tap the equity in their portfolios, and they're sitting on cash reserves to be able to do some of those buys, right? If they're going to do an all cash buy later, but they're making sure they're locking in at 3% or even less.
Yeah. Does this capital gains thing that could come out cause any issues on that side, you think?
Listen, put a blindfold on and throw a dart. Who's in charge, right? Every 4 to 8 years it changes. I don't, until I actually see it inked and I can see Congress, I can see our Congress work with our administration, whatever side of the aisle you might be on. I think you're going to continue to have a ping pong back and forth. That's my opinion. We'll see what's actually approved and actually signed off on and actually rolled out, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that the main goal with that is find a good CPA, or the main point with that. I mean, there's always, with the IRS, it's like cops and robbers, right? Like everyone's figuring out a way to make it work, and there's always loopholes and whatnot. But
and here's the best part. I mean, we've all been talking about so many different things today. Real estate is a great investment.
Sure.
And so any buyer out there that might be discouraged right now or frustrated, because I get it, right? Like I just had a buyer accepted 2 nights ago, 14 times. We wrote 14 different offers.
Wow.
And they finally got accepted on the 14th one, right? So I get it. It can be discouraging. But here's the thing. And Brad, your point about people plan to stay there and then things change. You're right. Absolutely. We know the stats show that. So the conversation up front needs to be, when things change, you may not get the equity out of it that you thought you would. I need you to understand that. And whether you as an agent can have case studies to show that, the growth from 2008 until today, and then look at over the last 40 years and actually show what the appreciation's been, say historical averages, you're not going to have that. As long as you know that, then we're good, right? We're having that conversation. And I think that's what we've been focusing on at Lakeside, is that our agents are talking to their buyers saying, it's still a great time to buy. Real estate's a great investment, and you may not get the year over year gains that you think you're going to get.
Yeah, 10, 12% gains.
Compared to the alternative of renting, you're not getting any gains.
Still a win.
Rents are up. Rents are
crazy high.
Rents are crazy high. It's crazy. Like, I'm paying rent right now, and
why is that? I mean, the cost of money is so cheap to buy a house, but rent has seemed to gone up as opposed to try to follow the trend of
supply and demand.
Like lumber, dude. Well, no, supply and demand, but people pay it because
I guess,
right? I mean,
it's the market
cost of.
It's your K-shaped recovery too, guys.
Yeah.
So 75% of our market, the unemployment amount of our market, so real estate sellers and buyers, 75% of them did not lose their job at all.
Talked about that. I'm so happy. So that's funny that you know that stat, because I always said, when it was like the people that did unfortunately lose their jobs, they were in service industries, they weren't the people really buying houses. You know what I mean?
Rent.
Yeah. They're the people that rent. Right. Exactly. And people need to have rentals. I mean, we just have a housing shortage. I mean, there's no way really around it. And now I'm seeing help wanted signs everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Now we've got people trying to go back to work, and people aren't going back to work. Some of them because they're getting fed from the government. And then I'm seeing help wanted signs everywhere, John, everywhere. You know what I mean? It seems like our economy is recovering in a weird way, but we're still pumping gasoline. It's like the fire's burning, and we're throwing kerosene on it.
I think too. Like let's say like a restaurant, right? And you shut down for 2 or 3 months. Like if you weren't relying on unemployment, as a bartender or waitress or something, you might say, you know what, I ended up getting a job, with a salary somewhere, and I think there's been a shift in just the job market itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. There's different jobs now. Like overnight, there's a different demand for different positions. Right. So, John, what do you see coming down the rest of the year? What are your feelings for Q2, Q3, Q4?
I think the market's going to continue to be really strong. Nothing in 2021 is changing. What we've been experiencing will continue. The biggest thing to watch out for are forbearance policy and capital gains, like we talked about earlier. But the demand will still be there. If I'm an agent or a broker, I'd be leaning on my mortgage partners. I'd be leaning on my title partners. I'd be really creating an amazing consumer experience as best as possible. The other piece of that, I'd really be thinking about how can I market to my database and my sphere the work from anywhere. How can I help people see and actualize that they can live 2 hours away from their work address? That is not going to change. The work from anywhere is here to stay. I would be shocked if the RenCen is back open with thousands of employees at this time next year, right? It's just corporations look at their bottom line, and the person who was getting up at 5:45 a.m. to shower and hit the gym and then head down to Detroit and commute 45 minutes one way, those days are gone. Okay, so the work from anywhere is a big piece of it. Now, that person might do it one day a week, right? And there might be hoteling and some other things that have to happen, because as good as this is, you can't replace eyeball to eyeball, right?
You got to get in the same room sometimes,
in some ways. But I just see it's going to continue. The demand's there. Staying on top of where the market's going, tracking lumber prices and construction costs, looking at what our trade agreements are looking. As a realtor and broker owner, you need to understand the global implications of what's going on. Our goods are not going to be as cheap as they've been the last 30 years.
Right.
It just won't be. I hate to be the guy to say that, but we already see that, right? So continue doing what we're doing. The market's strong. It's a great time to be in real estate, right? It's just different today. Remember 12 years ago, it was buy one, get one.
Yep. Yeah. It's definitely changed quite a bit. It's cyclical. Our business is cyclical. Only the cycle that we're in right now seems really long. It's just, every year it's like, oh man, we're going to see a correction. We're going to see, and then something else happens. But it's funny. I'm sorry, Brad, I wanted to finish this point. John, when you said about work from home, it's funny because we're interviewing people. And one of the questions that I get consistently is, can I work from home? So it's not even just the employers that had to do it, but now employees are seeking it out.
You got it.
So to be an employer,
a beautiful thing, dude.
It is a beautiful thing, but to be an employer, you almost have to offer it to get talent.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's going to become that norm where people want to have the ability to work from home consistently, and it is being demanded by the population as well. And it's just efficient. It's just interesting to me that shift happened overnight.
Yeah. I think we were heading that way, and it just was expedited by about 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, because of COVID. Yeah, I agree with that. So anything else that you see coming down the pipe? I mean, as far as if you're a real estate agent today, what should that real estate agent, like a new agent coming into this market? Could you imagine being a new agent in this market? Like it's like a lot of agents are actually leaving the market because it's becoming so competitive. But a new agent that's been in the business for 6 months, what do you say to that agent that like is trying to figure it out?
You don't try real estate; it tries you.
That's a great point.
If in your first 12 months you treat this like a 9 to 5, and you're in every day working your database, meet the people, talking to people, marketing and branding yourself, educating yourself on what the market's doing, what the trends are doing. People do business with people they like, know, and trust. It's that simple. That doesn't change. I'm a new agent in this industry. I am asking every day to my broker, who's an experienced agent I can shadow, who's an experienced agent I can go on showings for. You think experienced agents want to do showings right now?
No.
Okay, no. So at Keller Williams Lakeside, it's funny, you've made a couple comments today, Paul, and I love it, where you're like, agents are moving from Keller Williams or moving around, which we see that, of course, but at Lakeside, we're just humming, man. Like we're at 390 agents. We're still hiring new agents. We have them in a training program. There's a curriculum with faculty they learn from, and then they have a coach that like literally assesses their proficiency, and there's a report card that they have. And so I think what you're seeing is, if you're hanging your license at a flat fee or a small shop, you're going to get what you pay for. It's like there's a reason why people buy an Audi. There's a reason people buy Range Rover, Cadillac, and then there's people that drive a Ford Focus. God bless them. It's a great vehicle. It's the American staple in so many ways, but there's a difference, right? So if I'm a new agent, I'm working my database. I'm getting a mastery of the skills. I'm aligning myself with a brokerage that has the experience, wisdom, and talent to help me get to where I want to be. And if I can be consistent today and treat it like a 9 to 5 in that first year, I'll have the freedom, financial flexibility that I desire a year, 2, 3, 4 years. I want you to have a great career, not just a great year. Yeah. And that's my focus with my people.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm good with questions. You guys got any more questions before we get to 3 questions? Any other industry questions?
I'm
Other
good.
than go.
We've
So,
done
John,
a
we
lot
do
of
this
stuff.
thing called 3 questions where we ask you 3 random questions that don't have anything to do with real estate. And you guys have one of those, or should I just start?
Ooh, you can start.
Okay. If you had to be a fly on the wall in one moment in history, what would it be and why?
Oh, I think so. I would have loved to been able to sit in and actually listen. This might sound like a nerd, but I'd like to actually sit in and listen on when Nixon was resigning from the presidency and he was actually presented all the evidence on Watergate, what happened. I would have loved to just seen his face, like, yeah. And that might be a random one. You're like, that's weird, but like, we don't know. We know 10% of what actually happened for all of that lead up to him effective at noon tomorrow. It's like, what has ever happened?
Yeah, so that's interesting. That was an interesting time in our
good one.
Yeah, I think any government insider government type moment like that where we don't like Area 51, all that shit. Like if you could have all that knowledge in like one moment, that'd be kind of creepy. Because I don't think we know everything. We don't.
I don't think I want to know that. I thought about Area 51. I thought about who killed JFK and all that other good stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to know all that because I don't want to be killed.
Yeah. This UFO thing that we're seeing is real, by the way, guys. Have you seen that? We have real UFOs going around. All right, John, if you could be one animal in the animal kingdom, what would it be and why?
Elephant.
For what? I mean, other than the obvious reason. Why an elephant?
So they take care of their own fiercely. They have migratory patterns that change based on seasons, and they're able to move 2 weeks early or 2 weeks later, depending. They have that sense. Their memory is phenomenal, and they live a long time. And they're pretty badass. I think they're cool. They're like always been my favorite animal, and the more I've studied them and looked at them and the way they operate, I think they're pretty awesome. So,
they're really smart animals. They're
incredible.
super smart. They're like they say that their intelligence is really up there.
And you know, it's funny. One thing I want to. You guys know Floyd Wickman, right?
Yeah.
Sweat hogs in the train. So if you take a baby elephant and you put a little chain on a stick and that baby elephant tries to pull away from the stick, he can't, right? And then as he ages, you literally can get a little stick with a yarn and put it around the elephant. And as smart as that elephant is, and this is the context of what we know defines us, that elephant will not break away from that stick.
Because it feels like it can't. It already knows it can't and won't do it. That's interesting. That's a good life lesson, really. Sometimes we stop ourselves from doing things based on our own fears that aren't really legitimate. So that's an interesting thing.
So even though I love elephants, I'm not saying that I would not learn from my mistakes or past. I just thought that was a cool fact.
Last question. Let's see here. What should we ask? Here we go.
If you had to basically the rest of your life for every single meal order off one restaurant's menu, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that one, Salvatore.
The rest of your life.
Sal with the food question.
Gosh, I went. Oh my God, who has a very wide menu? Because
TGI Fridays.
I gotta say, Art and Jake's. Art and Jake's, menu. They have liquor, they have beer.
What the hell is Art and Jake's?
So for everybody outside of the metro area, Art and Jake's is a great bar type place with great menu, and it's just a good atmosphere. Brad, you wouldn't know any of that because you don't go anywhere.
Burger, ribs,
everything.
Yeah. Art and Jake's is wild. Yeah, they do a good job. They do a really good job. That's a good answer.
I thought of Capitol Grill first, and I'm like, I just couldn't eat that much steak. Like, eventually, I would just be like, 5,000
staked out, dude. You'd have the meat sweats,
butter coming out of your eyes,
right? Exactly. John, can you tell the audience how they can get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about potentially coming over to your team or anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, if you go to getforwardfocused.com, getforwardfocused.com. That's my podcast, and that's my leadership development company. And in addition to that, of course, you can always just call 586-532-0500. We really have a caring and supportive team here at Keller Williams Lakeside. We admit when we're wrong. We're learning based, and we're civically engaged in our community. Tomorrow we're shutting down our office, and we're actually rehabbing a Habitat for Humanity house in Mount Clemens, May 13th, Red Day. It's something that every second Thursday in May that Keller Williams offices globally do. It's about, if you make money in the community, you got to give back in the community, right? So we're always looking to add talent and get into business with great people. So getforwardfocus.com or 586-532-0500.
Jon, I'll be honest. You've been an amazing guest. I like talking to you, man. You have a great perspective, and I think you're doing a really good job over there as a principal at Keller Williams Lakeside. And I do appreciate you taking the time to impart your knowledge on us, man. It means a lot.
Well, I appreciate each and every one of you and everything that you're doing to partner with our agents and really help educate our buyers and work through sometimes the not so good news we get when they bought that car before closing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But sincerely, this has been an unprecedented 18 months. And so to have professionals like yourself that you can have fun with, that you can enjoy it with, but work really hard to get the deal closed, I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you for your partnership. So thank you.
You're awesome, man. Thank you so much for doing the show, dude. We'll have you back on again. I promise.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Have a good one, dude.
All right. Yep.
Smart guy.
Super smart. Good conversation.
Yeah.
Great conversation.
No, it's
yeah.
impressive. I mean, he's younger than all of us and has done a lot. That's pretty great.
I mean, he's got a lot of agents, dude. He's got a lot of people.
He's going through his timeline back in college and shit, and all I was thinking was, holy shit, overachiever.
Yeah, dude, I was like,
man, Jake's pounding whiskey.
Right. Yeah.
Insane. But
I mean, he's like, I got my master's at 22. I'm like, Jesus, dude. At 22,
I just got an email. Sorry.
Okay.
We all know we sucked when we were younger, but I got an email. It says inflation bomb.
Yeah. Inflation bomb. It's a big deal. This inflation's a big deal. It's going to start putting pressure on interest rates. It's going to be putting pressure on a lot of things. If inflation doesn't get kind of under control, we'll see higher rates. That's for sure. I mean, it's just the way it's going to work. Yeah, people are going to sell their bonds. If your money is in the bond market,
there's no way that they're going to be able to. In my mind, they're not going to be able to control the inflation. It's coming.
Well,
bro, if you're getting 1% return on your
you
bond,
just have to. Like, obviously, like the way to kind of offset inflation is increase wages, right? I mean,
yeah,
but they're not increasing at the same pace, really.
Right?
Not at the same pace, but I mean,
wages haven't increased in like 30 years.
Yeah.
However, due to potentially some cut overhead, with some of these companies with large buildings and being able to work online versus. I mean, not that I think that will solve the problem, but I think it will help. Dude, people are making more money than ever.
I went to a Wendy's the other day, and it said, "Sorry, we are shut down because we don't have employees." Basically, and there was a sign next to it, willing to pay. I think it was like $15 an hour, or $14 an hour.
Who the fuck wants to get Wendy's when you can get Red Robin delivered to you?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that just some things are, and mind you, I like Wendy's, but some things are just gonna change. I think that sorry, but your model's antiquated. I mean, dude, I used to love going to Blockbuster and looking at all the movie cases,
getting the popcorn,
whatever, right? Renting that Nintendo 64 game. But that got wiped, and things get wiped. I mean, there's certain things that you can't really replace, but there's a lot of businesses and technologies that just kind of go to the wayside, and it kind of is what it is. And either companies are ahead of it or they get caught up in the surge. So I'm not really sure ultimately what to think, other than just, if you're doing something for yourself, right? Like if you own a movie shop or rental, movie rental place, I mean, you probably got to start thinking about something else, because not now, but back in the day. But you've already, for example, whatever the next quote unquote blockbuster is that gets affected by this pandemic, right? Right.
Yeah.
There's probably just some things are going to be to the wayside.
Wiped, dude. No kidding. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with these the CPI data delinquency rates. I mean, there's so much going on right now, man, in our industry. There's so
There
much.
always is, though, dude.
Yeah,
Honest
you're
to
right.
God.
Always is.
You know,
You're right.
there's always a conversation about something going on.
True.
That I mean, it just
Yeah.
is what it is. You know, if you let the noise consume your whole entire day, and into a degree of what John said and what you were talking about, let this string around you of fear, you know, like stop you.
Yeah.
Like you just got to kind of make moves. I mean, shit, this guy was like living in Spain and whatnot, like, you know, thought like he kind of had everything figured out for himself, and then just made a jump, did
Right.
something, wanted something more for himself, and made it happen.
Right.
And I think that's like kind of all of us did that.
Right.
Cable is the next thing and get wiped, no doubt.
Cable is dead, dude. It's dead.
Yeah.
TV's dead almost, right? Like
I haven't had cable for like 2 years.
I haven't either.
I have
haven't
YouTube
either.
TV, and I don't even watch that. Like I don't
Yeah.
like live TV really.
I don't
It's
watch
all-
live TV either. It's
Only
kind of
sports.
interesting. Sports.
Really.
Sports are like whatever, something if there's something on. So, but that's it, man. That's our show today, guys. Anything else you want to add before we go, guys? Oh, by the way, this is our 150th episode, boys and girls. We've done 150 episodes. We didn't even talk about that. I totally forgot
Didn't talk about that at all.
Yeah, we've done
That's a lot of
150 episodes, 30,000 downloads. We've been on every single continent. So if you've listened this far, thank you for listening. You're part of the audience that kind of built this with us. When we started, we were getting like, I don't know, 12 listens an episode. So we've come a long way too, just ourselves in the last however long. So I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate Brad and Sal obviously doing the show for us. I mean, 150 times we've done this basically. So we should be proud of that. So that's it. That's our show. Anybody that wants to find us, please go to irepodcast.com. If you like the show, please like, subscribe, and give us a review. That really helps us. Also hit that notification bell. You can go to Facebook.com/IRE podcast. You can go to, we're on YouTube. We're on every podcast app. Other than that, I'm good, boys. You got anything else?
Nope.
No? Keith Stonehouse.
Make it a
Peace
good
out.
day.
Well, have a good day. Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
A big thank you to Paul, Sal, and Brad for having me as a guest on their podcast, Inside Real Estate. If you'd like to check out some of their other content, follow the link in the description below to take you to the Inside Real Estate podcast. And as always, if you found value in today's content, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss a lesson to be the leader that you deserve to be. Until next time, lead on.